from my apartment in Hollywood during quarantine. It's the Nighttime Show podcast. Here with me right now, social distancing, is my dearest friend, Mr. Matt Walker. I am, of course, the host of the Nighttime Show, Stephen Kramer Glickman, and our guest today. Oh, wow. Very, very exciting. I cannot tell you how big a fan I am, especially of her TV show that she's on, Better Things. I've watched every episode. Every time she shows up, I'm always happy to see her. But also, COOP and CAMI Ask the World, which is a massive Disney show. People love that show. And, of course, Shameless. Ladies and gentlemen, Rebecca Metz is here. Yeah.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine.
It's a very exciting intro. We'll have music in there. It'll be whole thing.
The intro is amazing. Life is weird.
Yes.
Intro amazing. I feel much better about myself than I did 20 minutes ago.
Life is weird. How has this been for you? What are you doing during quarantine and all this nonsense that's happening in the world?
That is a great question. I've actually had some auditions, which is hilarious because they're sort of like, hey, we want to know if you're available for a project. We don't know where it's shooting or when. Do you think you could do it? Like,
oh, yeah.
Sure, yeah, that sounds feasible.
And is that all done via like Skype calls or Zoom or one of those?
It's like self-tape auditions. So I now have 2 ring lights.
Oh, yeah.
Because I bought one and then Disney sent me one and they were like, we don't need it back. So I could probably shoot a movie in my house if I wanted to.
Yeah, you probably could.
And I'm trying to focus more on voiceover because you can do that from home. And I'm cooking a lot and watching a lot of TV.
What are you watching right now?
I'm rewatching. I have a few shows. I'm finding myself very much in doing the thing that a lot of people are doing that like been reported in the news, rewatching shows I've already watched because I don't want any surprises.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so I have rewatched all of the Great British Baking Show.
Mm-hmm.
I have, I'm currently rewatching The Americans, which is one of my go-tos. West Wing, always rewatching West Wing.
Oh, so good.
Oh, I will say though, I watched Betty on HBO, which if you haven't watched, I loved it. Like, of the new things I have watched recently, that's far and away my favorite. We've, of course, watched Floor is Lava and Holy Moly, the miniature golf.
Yeah.
Have you watched...
The Wipeout
Wait. Have you watched Cannonball?
Yeah. No, what's Cannonball?
Cannonball is on Hulu. It is a show that basically is in which somebody slides down a giant slide, and then they fly up into the air over a pool, and they try to hit some sort of target, and then they just crash into the water. And
oh my God!
It's like Wipeout, except it's all water based, and it's and people are just having the worst day of their life. You're just watching people.
That's perfect quarantine television. Holy Moly, if you haven't watched it, is pretty much the same thing. It's Wipeout with water and miniature golf.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it's very cold. Like, you can tell it's all outside, and you can tell that it's freezing.
See,
like, when people go in the water, they come off and there's just steam coming off of them, and they are visibly shaking. So that adds an element.
I watched Cannonball. I watched Cannonball when it was just called the Celebrity Diving Show with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar doing cannonballs into the water because he didn't know how to dive, which was hilarious.
They did that with Drake Bell was on that as well, and so was a couple other people. I remember
the dumbest
just
show.
having the worst days of their lives. Like, it's just so hard because it's like a show like Dancing with the Stars. You know, you do a show like that. It's not the best thing for your career. You know, everyone you know that. Like, doing Dancing with Stars, maybe not the best possible choice.
Yeah, that means it means I'm going to go back to my retirement home and go to sleep.
Right,
but I'm going to get so in trouble for saying that. I apologize.
No, but it's like, it's like the payday on Dancing with the Stars is insane, and people know it, and it's like, it's also kind of forgivable. Like, if you do it, it's like such a big show.
And depends on what your career is. Like, for Bill Nye, great move.
Yeah,
who cares?
Who cares?
You know,
who cares?
Totally true.
Yeah.
I disagree with myself. Totally true. For some people, it's like, oh, that's fun. Good for them. They're trying something new. And then
Yeah.
for some people, you're sort of like, oh, they're still alive. Good for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then like a step, like one step to the side of that is something like Celebrity Big Brother, where you're like, oh, I don't know if this was a good choice, guys.
Yeah.
And then a step away from that is like, let's go dive into a swimming pool, and you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
like now we're in deep shit.
The worst was what was it called? Get Me Out of Here, which was basically Celebrity Survivor. Do you remember that one?
Oh boy.
Which was like, it was brutal. Like, why are you doing? It's like,
it's hard.
Yeah,
it's a weird business. You
like
know?
the only thing that would be, the only thing worse that you could top any of these is would be Celebrity Naked and Afraid, where you actually have to be naked doing
my
it.
God.
Nobody,
that would be.
Yeah, I don't want to do that show.
Has there ever been a Celebrity Fear Factor?
Trying to think. I don't know.
Celebrity Apprentice, though. I feel like
almost the same.
Almost, it was very close.
Yes, very much the same.
Yeah,
very much the same.
I did a reality show, one episode. I did Cupcake
Wars. Yeah.
God, I loved that show.
Oh,
that was fun.
How'd you do?
Oh,
well, he was a judge.
I was a judge.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is my dream.
That's a dream.
As soon as the Disney Channel thing happened, I was like, I want to be a judge on all of the kids' cooking competitions.
Yeah.
I want to compete on Chopped. I want to do all the cooking shows because I'm obsessed with those.
Well,
yeah, I love those
We got to
shows.
talk about Coop and Cami Save the World because Ask the World because
everybody does that. Everybody does that.
Save the world. Yeah. Because
you're asking a lot of those poor kids.
I know.
I know.
David
just ask the world.
David Kendall, who directed a lot of the show on that, is one of my dearest friends and directed me for a long. He was my director on Big Time Rush for a long time, and the cast of that show, those kids, Albert is just an insane talented kid. He was on what's it called? He was on Dr. Ken's show. He's on Trophy Wife with Marcia, who was on our show. And we love him. We think Albert is a little genius. Like, he's so talented. What were those kids like to work with?
They were amazing. I do not have kids. I've always known I didn't want kids. And so when I got the show, all my friends were like, ha ha, you with 5 children and no adults. And I was like, I did not know what I was in for, but it's been so much fun. I miss them. Like, when I met them, Olivia, I think, was 15 or 14, but the rest of them were 13 and younger. Mm-hmm. So they really were kids, and for several of them, it was their first big acting job. And in the beginning, we were doing I was trying to help them with super basic things about acting on camera, because they were new to it. And that's a super high pressure situation. And I have just been blown away by how quickly and how far they have advanced in terms of becoming really great actors and knowing themselves as actors, stuff that takes adults their whole lives and a lot of training.
Yeah, and being the adult on the show is, I dealt with I did that for 5 years. It is an interesting responsibility because there is really a lot of people looking up to you, and you're trying to show them that this is all natural, this is all normal. But then at the same time, and as an actor, as an actress, this in this town is so unpredictable and so weird that you just you're trying to be a leader, but then at the same time you're like, I don't know what is happening sometimes.
Well, you're trying to be a leader, except you're behind all of them on the call sheet. So behind the scenes is very clear. And we would go to events, big Disney red carpet events, and I would always get mistaken for one of their publicists or parents, and people around me would have to be like, no, she's on the show.
Oh my God.
You're a leader, but you are the least important person on the show, which is fine. I tried to just model good professional acting behavior for them because, it feels like that's sort of the least I can do. And I had to often fight my impulse to be protective of them because it's not my job and they have great parents. We're very lucky to have really good parents on the show who are, that has everything to do with, I think, how the kids.
Do you have to deal with strange schedules for you where it's like, hey, they can only work so many hours per day and in different shifts, and they have to go and study with their tutor and all that kind of stuff? Like, does that affect your, like, are you basically working the entire day and then with different groups of these kids, or how does that work?
A little bit. I'm the only one who can work overtime, and so if someone is going to get screwed, it's going to be me. But like kids multi-camera, the hours are way easier than any kind of grown-up TV. Maybe I know there are grown-up multi-camera shows that get down to like 3 days, and that's amazing. But a lot of the crew only work on kids multicam because they love the hours. They're going to be home for dinner. People get into that world and they just stay forever because it's pretty cushy compared to like working in drama or single camera comedy.
Yeah, or if you're on like a feature or something, then they're like, hey, go to British Columbia and stay there for 3 months and all that. So
yeah. And I tried, on my more difficult days, I would say to the kids, if they complained about something, I would be like, just wait till you turn 16. I would be like, okay, I need to go hang out in my trailer for a couple minutes and not terrify them.
So how did you get started in acting?
Oh, wait, before we get to that, I got to throw one thing out there real quick. This is just a thank you I have to throw just in case she is listening to the show at some point, is Ruby Rose hooked me up huge because she's one of the main characters on the show, and my nephew is like a major fan of her, and asked me, is there any possible way that you could ask Ruby to like wish me happy birthday or something like this? And I was like, Ruby Rose from like the Fast and the Furious. I was like,
it's confusing.
I'm not reaching out. I don't know her. But then I realized it was Ruby Rose Turner from your show, and I was like, oh, it's Disney Channel. I'm Nickelodeon. Like, I've done some Disney stuff. Like, and so I reached out on Twitter and was just like,
isn't that like the Crips and the Bloods of TV? Like, you guys fight each other to death?
I think it's eased up.
Or in language you'll understand, the Jets and the Sharks? Is that closer to something you'll understand?
A little bit. It's closer to ratings-wise, it's closer to the Jets and the Sharks.
Disney's wiping the floor with Nickelodeon though right now. It's not a good fight.
But you
right
crossed
now.
over. You were in a Disney movie, so.
I did like a Disney something. Anyways,
did
doesn't
you have to be like deprogrammed?
Yeah. Well, you know what was like the biggest difference, and I don't know if this is the same as it was then, but at Nickelodeon, they basically, I was told from a few directors that do both shows that Disney does not believe that kids appreciate irony. And that Nickelodeon believes that kids like things that are super ironic and weird. So for television, like Nick shows were very like quirky and strange and oddball characters and real weird. And Disney was like, whatever we wrote on the script, that's what you're doing on the day. Like, whatever we agree to is what it is. It's not ever going to be like some improv or weird stuff. Is that kind of...
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. I mean,
I got told by, I remember a wardrobe person like coming up and like moving the kids' clothes or my clothes or something so like a bra strap wasn't showing like on a shoulder. Wow. And I sort of rolled my eyes, and I remember one of them being like, on Nickelodeon, they don't care about bra straps. And I was scandalous.
There's an episode of the Big Time Rush show I did where Jeff Ross comes in to roast me, the roast master, and he says, he comes in and he goes, oh, I listened to your new track, and he said something like, it made me rethink my life and makes me want to kill myself or something like that. And like he said the words makes me want to kill myself on Nickelodeon.
No way.
Yeah.
And way.
Yeah, and then he was like, I really, really like the second track. It sounds a lot like number 2. Like there was a lot of like and he was like, "Oh, my Grammy would love this track." And she's been dead for 20 years. Like it was a lot of like stuff that would never fly. But okay, you went to Carnegie Mellon. Matt Walker went to Carnegie Mellon, and go. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
no, that's true.
Were you traumatized or pleased with your experience?
A little of both. I was there studying mechanical engineering, so we never crossed paths, even though we were there at the same time, because I looked up, we're roughly the same age. I probably helped traumatize you in the fact that I played drums in the pipe and drum band, so I'm sure I annoyed you many times walking around campus, hearing us making a racket, I would imagine.
I don't remember being annoyed by that. I remember that was just like one of those experiences that I was like, oh, right, I'm actually in kind of a traditional university setting. I forget because all I do is like play red light, green light, 1, 2, 3 all day. And my friends are all in engineering classes. And my favorite thing actually about Carnegie Mellon, one of my favorite things was that we have the only bagpiping major in the United States.
Now there's more, but at the time it was the only one.
Really?
Yeah. You can get one at can get one at UC Riverside now, which is strange, but I don't know.
That is strange. Yeah. That's not the right climate for bagpiping.
And they only brought it in. You know why they brought it in? Because the UC Riverside mascot is the Highlanders, and I'm convinced they were just like, oh, we're the Highlanders. Let's just add bagpiping. Like, there's no reason to do it there for any reason at all. But Riverside, California, you can go there. Yeah. But
you used to hear it floating across campus as the bagpiping majors were practicing, and I love that.
Yeah, no, they were really good because I played drums in the pipe and drum band, so I was annoying my neighbors, but not to the same extent, in a different way. But I mean,
I loved it all. You did not annoy me.
Yeah, but when we were there, now there's some sad news because the O just closed for good, and I don't know what people in Pittsburgh are going to do. And see, that's a place even where you would go. And you get a large 16-inch cheese pizza for $3.
Oh.
Which was
seems sustainable.
Every bit as good as a $3 pizza you imagine. It was that good.
Oh, wow.
But the thing was, you'd get the smallest order of French fries. And, you know those fry buckets they fry French fries in, when you go to places? It's an entire one of those was the small.
Oh, my God.
And then it would feel like an entire cafeteria tray was the small order of fries.
Oh, wow.
And it was a scene. The line was a scene.
Oh, it sounds like a fun place. What did you study acting at school?
I did, yes. What I was doing there.
What type of, were you doing plays? What type of plays were you doing?
All kinds of, it was a pretty hardcore theater education, all kinds of plays, classical, contemporary, American, not American.
Do you have any favorites? Anything that was like, ooh, this changed
me?
My
and this actually kind of connects to a Good, Better Thing story. So my senior year, I got the lead. I'm a character actor. I am always the lady who comes in, says something funny and leaves. I understand that is my job. But I got to be the lead in a Feydeau farce called A Cat Among the Pigeons. And they handmade me a corset custom to my measurements, and it was beautiful, and I had pretty dresses and pretty hair, and I got to look pretty, and it was and the director's name was Mladen Kiselov, who was this Bulgarian director who was like Yoda. He just everybody loved him. He was so just talented, and the way he communicated, and I think I probably got the part because I'd complained to the department that I'd never gotten to work with him, and they were like, oh, for God's sake, just give her the role in this play. And the Better Thing story is that on set, Diedrich Bader and I were sitting around talking about Pittsburgh and whatever, and he was like, yeah, Drew and I went to Pittsburgh once when we were doing Drew Carey, and we actually went to see a play at Carnegie Mellon, and we were going back and forth about the play, and I was like, did you see A Cat Among the Pigeons in 1996? And he was like, yeah, I think I did. And I was like, that was me!
Wow!
And
oh, my God!
Wow.
Diedrich saw me in my specialist college lead role.
That's crazy. When I remember, I saw Drew Carey at Carnegie Mellon because he came and performed at Spring Carnival one year in 92 or 93.
That was probably when it was.
That might be when it was. Yeah, it might have been later. Yeah, I forget when it was, but I remember seeing Drew Carey then, and he wasn't super famous at the time. He was a guy, but he wasn't Drew Carey at that time, and it was cool.
Hey, a quick thing I want to talk about, Mike Black. I think this is something that we really should talk about, and it's a company that was founded in 1983 in Tokyo, Japan. Of course, I'm talking about the Zoom Corporation.
Zoom.
Now, if it wasn't for Zoom, and Matt knows this, we would not be able to do our show. They make the best audio equipment in the world. Which one are we using right now?
We're recording onto a Zoom LiveTrack L8 right now, and when we go do our live events at conventions and stuff, we often use the Zoom H6, and they're both just fantastic pieces of equipment. You plug your microphones in, you plug your headphones in, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're a classically trained pianist or a run-and-gun filmmaker or a podcaster like us.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do a ton of podcasts, and I can tell by listening when they're using a Zoom and when they're not.
Yeah,
it's the mark of excellence.
It really is. Go check it. Go check out all their stuff over at zoom-na.com. That's zoom-na.com. Be professional, for God's sake. Zoom-na.com. All right. Okay, let's get back to the show.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Better Things,
Yeah.
which is a show I have never missed an episode of since it premiered. I've seen every episode. I am basically obsessed with it. It inspired me.
We've had tons of people on that have been on that show. And we had Joanne Toll on. And,
Joanne Toll was on our show.
Oh my God, Joanne.
Lots of, and Alyssa Reiner is a friend, and a couple other people that are in that cast are really amazing. And I got to work with Pam on a show called True Jackson VP for one whole day. We got to hang out for an afternoon, and I was already a fan, and but that show is it's really extraordinary. What's the process like of getting cast on that show, but then just working on it? What's it like? Please tell me everything.
Okay. First of all, I'm always happy when I hear men talk about how much they love the show, because I have had a lot of men come up to me and say, I know I'm not the target demographic for this show, but I want you to know that I love it. And I always sort of say, I think the show is about people, so I think you're in the target demographic. I understand that it sort of centers women in the story, and women are kind of in charge of everything, but I think you're still allowed to love it as a guy. So it always makes me very happy to hear. That show feels like I manifested my dream job. It really does. So casting wise, the casting director is Felicia Fasano, who's now a producer on the show, who you probably know, and who I had been going in for years. She cast me on Californication. And so it was like one of those casting relationships where she knew me. And I had actually, when I saw the show announced, pinged my agents and said, I want to keep an eye on this. I want to be in on it. Whether that had anything to do with it, probably not. But I knew what the show was when I got called in.
Yeah.
And it's a little different the way Pam does auditions, in that you don't get sides ahead of time. They just say, show up 15 minutes ahead, we'll give you the sides. So you can't go to a coach. You can't over prepare. It's really cold. It's a cold read, just so they can sort of get a feel for what you do. And everybody was reading the same material. Mm-hmm. And so I went in, I did it. I think they gave me some sides for Tressa, some other stuff that they had. I did it. I don't think there was a callback. It was just one audition. And then I got a call probably the next week saying, you're in the show. We don't know who you're going to be yet. We'll let you know.
That's great.
And it was for one episode. I was booked for one episode, that first episode where Sam is up for the pilot, and Tressa doesn't tell her about it and kind of manages that whole situation, which was it was a crazy experience, because all of my stuff was phone calls. So I wasn't acting with anyone.
Oh, yeah.
There was someone on the other side of the phone to deliver the line, but I was in a room by myself on a show I've never seen, because no one's ever seen it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And so, it was a little bit scary. So I got there.
You have no idea what the tone of the show should be and how you should do that or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. You just have to go with, I guess they liked what I did in the audition, so I'm going in the right direction. Pam is there, and she has a very clear, distinct energy, and so you can kind of take something from that. So we started doing it, and I would do a take, and I would hear Pam from the other room screaming, Rebecca Metz is the greatest actress on this show. And I was like,
wow.
Okay, I guess that was a good take. And we would do another one, and she would yell, Everyone else is fired. Rebecca Metz is playing all the roles.
Oh, nice.
And I would like to say that was about me, but that is about Pam. That is about the environment on that show. She's handpicked every single person who is there. She's so thrilled with the fact that this is happening, with what we get to do. She's so supportive. By the end of the day, I was frankly a little skeptical. I was like, is she making fun of me? Like, my parents are not this supportive of me.
Oh my God.
But we finished it, and it was...
Yeah. You are excellent.
Yeah.
You are excellent
like
on the
she's
show.
Thank you.
I mean, so much so. There's an episode, I think last season, or sometimes I'll just go back and just watch. I watch it so often that it's like one of those things where I kind of, check in, kind of see, like, if it's on TV, I'll watch it, and then
I do that too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which season it was, but there was an episode where Pam was up for a role and you didn't tell her that she was up for the role, and you're trying to negotiate it and work it out, and then it goes away. And she's
that's the first episode I did. That's season 1,
Okay.
episode 4. That was my first episode.
Where she's like relieved because she needs to like kind of needs a break, and you're like, yeah, no problem. And like, it was like, I was like, oh man, this is like a little too real. Like the agent who's like, trying to make something, like I've got, like a manager who works really hard for me, and I love him so much, and he's such a fucking great guy, and I know he has to deal with some weird shit, and I try really hard not to put him in positions where he has to deal with like too much weird stuff, but I get offered weird things that a lot of times end up just falling apart in the process, and he has to just kind of deal with a lot of weird conversations, and and then every once in a while something happens and it's a win, and then we get to celebrate, and it's so exciting. But man,
like Steven gets calls from people where they're like, hey, can you find a way to do this thing where we can have a live giraffe? Can you arrange to have a live giraffe?
Oh my God! I didn't even think of that. Okay, seriously, Rebecca, real quick. I'm sorry to jump on this.
No. I want to hear the live giraffe story.
I was sponsored, clothing-wise, by a company called LRG. They're like a skateboarding company, and they would send me all the clothes and all the things, and I would do all sorts of cool promotion stuff for them, and it was awesome. And their mascot was a giraffe. And but it was like a cartoon, like a drawing of a giraffe, like on T-shirts. And then they came to me, and they're a huge brand, like huge. And they came to me, and they were like, hey, by the way, we're trying to find a giraffe. Like, if you ever know anybody who has a giraffe, we need one. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is Hollywood. Of course I know someone with a giraffe.
Anyone?
It's like, I'm sure I can get you a giraffe. No big deal. So, like, they're like, yeah, we got a budget. We got about $4,000 to, like, get a giraffe to this, big, giant, storage, what's it called? Like, warehouse that we're shooting these skateboarders in. We want a giraffe in the background. And I was like, no problem. I got this. Like, I can help out. I'll make it work. And so, like, I make a bunch of phone calls.
My reaction is that this should not be your job.
No,
go ahead.
No, it's
not at all.
But I'm like, I'm trying to help out. I'm trying to help out. Maybe
Steven loves doing this stuff.
I love this kind of stuff. I love trying to figure out things. And so I'm like, I find someone who's got the giraffe. I talk to them. They're like, no problem. They have like a big giraffe like thing like out in the like Riverside or someplace, some big thousands of acres, and they've got giraffes and wild animals and stuff. So they load up one of their giraffes onto this this truck thing, and they take it all the way to downtown Los Angeles where they're going to do this thing.
God.
And they get the giraffe to the set. Everyone is excited. The truck pulls in. The lift gate goes up. Everyone's like, the giraffe. The giraffe steps down the platform, trips, falls, and slices its neck on the platform, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, the giraffe is going to die." The giraffe did not die. The giraffe is fine. Okay, and it needed stitches.
My God, I would have cried right here on your podcast. I cannot handle that.
These people are losing their fucking minds. They're like, "What do we do? What happens to the giraffe?" They're like, "We need to take the giraffe to the giraffe hospital." They took it to the hospital at the LA Zoo.
You need a really, really long MRI machine.
Oh
for
my
that.
God.
Yeah.
It was such a fucking gigantic mess. So much so that they had to cancel the entire photo shoot, which cost them like almost at least $100,000 was the cost of the day.
You got to pay everyone. Yeah.
They lost out on all of that. They ended the sponsorship with me immediately. And this.
But it's like, you didn't trip the giraffe.
No.
You're not standing there sticking your foot out.
Well,
you
but then they were
there.
like, "Who's responsible for the hospital bills?" And then it was like, it was a mess. I
was going to say, what is the lesson we learned from this?
Stop
Do not
offering
offer to help in ways that you should not be helping.
This is exactly why I don't do that stuff anymore.
But that's the kind of stuff that his manager winds up getting phone calls about, where he's like, "Hey, Adam, we need to get a giraffe. Do you know the giraffe people?"
My
like
God.
it's
my manager's just like, stop it, Stephen. Shut up, Stephen.
I would just want to mention that I got married at the Santa Barbara Zoo because I saw a picture online of like a happy bride, a happy groom, and a giraffe between them smiling.
Oh.
And we have giraffe stuff all over our house because there was like giraffe print on the invitations, and we went on a safari for our honeymoon. And so like, I'm not a crazy giraffe person, but it has become a thing.
wow.
So there's that.
Wow, look at us.
I will also say that that episode of Better Things, it's super interesting to me because people who are in the industry have a totally different reaction to it than people who are not. Because people who are not in the industry think, what a shitty manager. She didn't tell her client about this opportunity. Mm-hmm. You know, like people not in the industry responded like, Tressa's a liar. Tressa's a bad manager. Sam should fire her. And people in the industry were like, oh my God, Tressa's the best manager. It's such a beautiful telling of how this business works. And
it really is.
Feeling defensive towards the people who said Tressa's a shitty manager. I just love that Sam's willing to tell stories that aren't going to resonate clearly the way, the same way with everybody. Like there's ambiguity to them. It depends on your perspective and your privilege and where you're coming from. And like, she's perfectly willing to have that sort of ambiguity in her stories, which I love.
Well, I mean, there's a chunk of one of the seasons where her middle daughter, like runs away from home and is like staying at other people's houses and is like not. It's not like, living on the street, but is like living at just needs a break from the family. And I know plenty of people who have teenage daughters who have been like, they just packed up and they went and stayed at someone else's house for like 3 months. And it's really, it is not as, when I was a kid, running away from home was like like literally an impossible thing. Like you could no one would ever do something like that. And if you did, then you were like, it was going to be like some Jerry Springer stuff. Like no one.
Yeah, you were going to die on the street.
Yeah, exactly. But nowadays, it's like if a teenager needs a break from their family and they want to go stay with like a relative or with like a neighbor or like a family that like they like a friend or something like this, it is not as abnormal as it used to be. And the fact that she covered it so nicely and like showed what kind of pain it put her through as a mother and stuff like that, I was like, man, this is like it's really interesting stuff. Or you guys did the episode where all the women are celebrating like Valentine's Day or Mother's Day? Father's Day, but they're all divorced and I'm the lesbian and like there are no fathers in the picture. I went to one of those parties with funny enough, some of the women on the show, and I was hired because I'm friends with one of the women. They hired me to come to the house and not hired. They asked me as a favor to come to the house and play the piano and like lead some like sing-alongs at their piano up in the hills. And literally cast members from your show
from that episode
were in the room that night doing the same thing, and I was like, "This is."
Was that before we shot the show? Because I wonder if someone pitched it.
It was very tight in the timeline. I mean, it was like within months of it happening.
All right, we'd probably shot it already, but like that, that episode, and there are especially the ones where a lot of the friends, a lot of the characters get together.
Yeah.
Like it turns into a real party, and someone has to remind us to say the lines from the script because
my God.
we would just stay there all day. Like it's like I love all of those people so much. I miss them like crazy. I'm friends with a lot of them at this point. Like it's just, and the same with the crew. Like it's a dream gig. It really is.
Well, so let's go through some of those women that you're.
Let's talk about Pamela Adlon for a minute, because she's
okay. Let's.
I mean, she's a storytelling genius, I think we can say at this point. She's been a great actress. She's been a great voiceover person. One of her first roles was on the greatest television show of all time, Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh,
give her credit
damn
for that.
It, Matt. You fucking nerd. I swear to God. I'm so sorry.
If there's a Star Trek connection, I will bring it in every time. But no, like, she's been fantastic in everything she's done. Like, how fun is she to work with on a set? Like, she just seems like she'd be the best time ever to hang out with.
Yeah, she's super fun to hang out with on set. First of all, it should be said that she's the showrunner, the executive producer, the head writer, the lead actor, and directs every episode.
And the Rebecca Metz hype person, apparently.
Yes.
Correct. On-set therapist. The fact that she has time to be fun with anyone when we're shooting is insane. But she does. And on any other show, a person doing that many jobs would slow the whole process down.
Yeah.
It would be really inefficient, and everyone would be upset and not saying anything because that person is in charge. And that is not what it's like. It makes complete sense. It works more smoothly than if she was not doing all those things, which is incredible, and to her enormous credit. But yeah, she's amazing to work with. One of the great things about it is that the fact that she does all those jobs means that if we want to change things, there's no one else we need to ask. And because she's an actor, we can say to her, I don't feel like this moment is working the way it's written. I feel like I would do X instead, or could we move this here? We've done scenes where she was just like, this is not working. We're going to chop this up and rework it from the ground up. And we can do that because she's the boss, and she speaks actor. So, you don't have to sort of find a way to make something work that someone who's not an actor has come up with, which happens sometimes. She's got very strong mom instincts, so she's always taking care of everybody.
Is she writing while on set for the next episode?
No, everything is cross-boarded, so the whole season is written before we start. I mean, there's tweaks happening, but everything is written before we start because they cross-board the entire season, which for people who don't know means instead of like shoot one episode, then we shoot the next episode, then we shoot the next episode, they shoot everything. They go to a location,
shoot everything from that location.
From all of the episodes in that location. So in a given day, you might be shooting material from 5 different episodes.
Oh my God.
Which is like a crazy amount of work for scripty, for every department.
All the continuity and wardrobe, but it probably saves a ton of money in terms of the shooting schedule.
Yes, that's why people do it. We and the show was all on location until season 3. Then they put the house is on a soundstage now. It's rebuilt, like upstairs is upstairs. Everything is it's like when you are in the house on the soundstage, you would swear that you were in the house from location until you step outside and are like, oh, there's a roof. But at least that makes things a little bit easier because location, brings a lot of additional sort of complexities and whatever.
I did not realize that it was that house was on a soundstage. That's really amazing.
Now it is. There was I think in season 2 there was a day when I got a call sheet and it had a bear warning across the top, and I was like, oh, they must be shooting something with a bear later. But actually, the house was in Altadena. There was just a bear.
Just a bear
they
running
showed
around.
up and there was a bear swimming in the pool and hanging out near Crafty. And so it was like, hey, everybody, be careful when you go to the honey wagon not to get eaten by the bear.
And that's got to be the inspiration for her having a bear on the show, too.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, I believe it was.
Yeah, because
I remember when that bear was hanging out in people's pools, and it was just like in the neighborhood because it was on the news, and they're like, well, we're just going to sort of leave it because we don't know what to do with a bear in a swimming pool. Like, what do you do? So.
Yeah.
I have a video of Kevin Pollak doing his Johnny Carson impression, narrating us watching the bear eat garbage in the valley below the house.
Oh my God! Okay, now
That's
you get to work with Kevin Pollak, and but then on this night, the Father's Day episode, it's you, it's Judy Gold, it's Alyssa Reiner, it's Cree Summer. And I feel like I'm forgetting
Judy
somebody.
Reyes.
And oh my God, what can you tell us a little bit about these women of what it's like to spend time with them?
We're all very loud. It's difficult to get a word in edgewise. It's loud. That's the biggest thing. It's loud and it's funny all the time. Always someone is crying. Like,
it's so great.
I don't even have words. I can't believe that Pam is able to wrangle the energy of that. Like, we would have just gone to a bar. We have actually done this. There have been episodes when all the girls got together, the one called Santa Barbara, where we go on the plane to Sonny's new boyfriend's house. We were done shooting. We just went wine tasting. Like, we just keep hanging out with each other because we're having so much fun. That day was really intense. It was, real lady friends getting together, talking through some real shit. I mean, that episode is inspired by something that someone in the cast is going through. I'm not going to out anybody,
of course.
A lot of the stuff in the show comes from the lives of the people on the show, and so there are real feelings coming up and real stories to be told.
Well,
I think that comes through when you watch it, and that it really, it rings of truth, that show.
Like, I'm not dropping any names by saying this, but I have run into there's a lot of women that I know in this industry that are very successful who have had husbands walk out or not be able to handle them being successful and being the breadwinner or bringing home the, like being able to pay for everything, handle everything, or just the guys are, the men are just pieces of shit basically.
And I for one,
and
just on the record, I for one would love a woman who made all the money. So if anybody out there is a wealthy woman that would like to date a skinny redhead,
a skinny redhead who loves Star Trek.
Yes.
And just ordered a tricorder.
My husband was a skinny redhead. He's great now, but he was a skinny redhead, and he loves that I make money sometimes.
And I'll have you know, I did not bring up Kevin Pollak's William Shatner impression.
Oh, okay.
So
all
there you
right.
go.
Thank you, man. But I have noticed that a lot. That like some of these women who are like, powerful, badass women that these men, some of these men just can't fucking hang, and it's like, it's mind blowing. I can't understand it.
So related story. In season 2, the episode where Pam Sam is on a date with a guy. They're at Musso and Frank's, and they're talking, and they have a big fight in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And she goes off on him. So I helped with casting. Felicia had something come up and asked if I could come in and read. She had a bunch of actors lined up for that role and a bunch of other roles, and she asked if I could come in and help read, and I did. And a lot of actors whose work you would recognize, whose faces you would recognize, came in and read for that. And like I said, you don't get the sides ahead of time, so they only saw it when they showed up. And more than a few of the men who came in to read for that role could not do it, could not allow themselves to lose a fight to a woman who's
crazy.
Smarter than them.
Really?
Couldn't do it. And I was like, and some said they couldn't do it, or said, I would never let a woman talk to me this way. And I just thought, like, if you had to read the shit that women have to read along the lines of shit I would never do or say, you would die. You would die and quit and go back to wherever it is that you came from.
It's called acting. Like, it's not real.
Yeah. And the thing is, so John Ailes, who's the actor who got that role, who did it so beautifully, and you just look at the work he did and go, look at the opportunity you've been given. This writing is incredible. You as a man get to show some vulnerability, get to show being hurt, and like do some stuff that men are not called upon to do very often on television. And you're going to pass that up because you can't be low status to a woman. Like it just makes me sad and blows my mind. And then you see someone who can do it and you go, well, you know, that's why you get the part.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Hey, real quick before we continue the show, I want to talk about a third-generation, family-run business that I am very proud to be working with. Sennheiser is the top-tier microphone company in the world, and we are so lucky that we are now recording our show using Sennheiser microphones and their headphones. It's awesome.
We're talking into Sennheiser MD42 microphones and using Sennheiser HD25 headphones, and these sound amazing.
I mean, listen to Mike Black's voice.
Listen to the rich and sumptuous soundscape that comes out of my voice every time I speak into a Sennheiser.
Absolutely. Go check out their microphones and their sound equipment over at Sennheiser.com. All right, let's get back to the show. There's a couple of shows that you've worked on, you know, before we wrap things up. I'd like to be able to bring up and just kind of just see you know, like if you have any memories from them, anything that you know it was important about working on it. AJ and the Queen, which was
oh my God,
look like a hell of a lot of fun as far as a show to work on. What did you do on it? What was it like?
It was an episode, so that's a show starring and executive produced by RuPaul, and we did musical numbers from Grease. I was in a trio with Bridget Everett and Natasha Leggero, which is, you know, intimidating if you're delivering comedic material. It was like last year or 2 years ago when it was pouring rain in LA, and so when we were shooting outside, and so it was a little bit of an odyssey in that way. But I got to hang out, spend a lot of time in an RV with RuPaul, Bridget Everett, and Natasha Leggero playing dirty charades and cake, which I would highly recommend.
Oh my God,
yeah.
I love that. That's
awesome.
awesome.
That was pretty awesome.
That's awesome. You did one episode of This Is Us, is that right?
I did.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a show where everybody
dies, everybody cries.
Everyone cries, everyone dies. Everyone in my family loves that show. There's a lot. Every time I go visit my mom, she's like, "Let's watch This Is Us together." And I'm like, "Oh God, oh God."
Oh boy, here we go.
Here comes the tears. What was that set like as far as like working wise?
First of all, that's also a show that reminds you how many people watch network television, because like you do a nice cable show and people are like, "Oh hey, I saw you on this thing." You did This Is Us, and every person you went to grammar school with calls your parents and is like, oh, my God. You know, it's just a completely different level.
Yeah.
That was actually a reshoot. So I went in on a Thursday, and we shot Friday. Like, it was the fastest job I've ever done.
Wow.
I think they had shot that scene with a very different, much more somber tone and decided they didn't want that. And so they rewrote it with some humor in it, which is, you know, being the funny person on a drama is something I have done a lot.
Yeah, you did that. You were funny also on Grey's Anatomy when you went in.
Yeah.
On that, yeah.
Yeah, that's a sort of niche I've sort of fallen into.
It's a good one to be in.
This Is Us was amazing, super quick. We shot it at the W Hotel in Hollywood, which was very exciting for everybody who was near the W Hotel in Hollywood watching This Is Us people show up.
Yeah.
But it was so fast that it was like I woke up that weekend and was like, did I work on This Is Us or am I hallucinating?
Yeah. Did I just get punked where I just showed up for a day and did something? I don't know what happened?
It felt kind of not real.
I love it. I love that. So great. You were on Shameless for 14 episodes, if not more.
Yeah.
Who did you work with mostly on that show?
Emmy Rossum. Emmy Rossum was I worked in the diner, Patsy's Pies, as a waitress with Emmy Rossum.
Wow.
And some Dermot Mulrooney, who I love, and Yeah. And William H. Macy showed up and he directed an episode that I was in, as did Emmy.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was pretty amazing.
Now, how would you say your character on that show relates to you in real life? Because we know Sammy Hanratty, who was on that show, and her character on that show is the opposite of her in real life. Like, on the show, she's like a drug addict, bad girl, and Sammy Hanratty's like the nicest, most bubbly girl you'll ever meet in your life. So, like, for you, were you playing sort of opposite what you do? Like, do they do that a lot on that show? Or were you sort of like, it's sort of just me being me and doing the show? Or
it was neither. It was not the opposite of me, but not me. Much grittier and trashier than me, which is, I think, everyone on that show
I think you have to do that for Shameless.
Grittier and trashier than they actually are. But it was, I tend to play not super friendly, cranky, sarcastic characters. So it was consistent with characters I have played on other shows. But specific to the Shameless world, I mean, my favorite thing is that my hair and makeup took like 15 minutes because it was not supposed to look good.
Yeah.
I got to make all kinds of vulgar gestures, roll my eyes a lot. Like a lot of the time when you're working in TV, they're always, at least this is the note I get, is they're always like, remember, we have to like her. We have to think she likes the people she's talking to. You do not get that note on Shameless.
Yeah.
Which is super fun. Like, it's super fun to be like.
It's a show with no likable characters. Like, that's the beauty of it.
Make it trashier, dirtier, more disgusting, and more like you hate yourself and everyone you're working with. And
That's
also, we were waitressing. Like, there was a day that I came home from set and I walked 9,000 steps on set. Like, we were working.
Yeah.
I mean,
with cameras.
What's so cool with your career too is that, like, when you, like, I mean, with shows like Better Things and with Coop and Cami, it's like you've done a ton of episodes of these shows, and you're in there all the time. But like shows like Mindy Project, Criminal Minds, Marin, NCIS, Californication, The Middle, Parenthood. I mean, Weeds, Justified, Mentalist, Prison Break. It's like you have been on like everything.
Yeah.
Like how? What is the thing? What do you feel like is the thing that ties it together for you that has made this a real career? Are you good in the room when it comes to, or like, do you feel comfortable? Like, what's your preparation like to go in for stuff like this? Because this is, it's so impressive. I know so many actors.
Thank you.
Where they've been like, they've been on like one thing. And then they've been on, for example, I'm not trying to relate everything back to myself, but like, I did did a reoccurring on one thing. I did a guest star on one thing. I did a guest star on a Disney Channel movie, and then I did 5 years on a Nick show, and then a movie, a big Warner Brothers movie. But that's it. And like every once in a while, I'll go in for like NCIS or I'll go in for something. But I have so much reverence for
so
someone.
Steven wants to know, how does he book more jobs?
How do you book more? No, I mean, how do you? It is absolutely phenomenal that you're able to, that you're doing what you're doing.
First of all, I can't tell you how much pleasure it brings me that my having done 1 or 2 episodes on so many shows is like now something to be proud of and impressed by, because at the time I felt trapped in one-day guest star jail and I was never going to get out. Do you know what I mean? Like you can't make a living on that. I was still working full-time day jobs through all of those jobs. And I felt like there was something wrong with me because that's what I was doing. So, and also it doesn't feel like you've been on everything. It just feels like I've been on one episode. So like to have arrived at wherever I am now and have that now be a thing to be proud of is, I want to send a little letter through time to myself and just tell myself that someday that's what it's going to feel like.
Yeah.
Because it's not what it felt like.
I don't know if you know Fred Stoller, but he wrote a book called Maybe We'll Have You Back. because he was a guest star on like everything from the 90s to basically now.
Oh yeah.
Like he's just like the guy who shows up, and I think the longest run he had was on Everybody Loves Raymond, where he did like 15 of them. But like most shows, he would drop in for like one episode, and they're like, maybe we'll have you back, and that's pretty much it, because he's a very specific kind of role that he can play. So that's not the kind of thing they're going to have all the time on these shows, and I think it's just something actors need to remember is like, hey, this is just a job. Like, you go in, you do the job, and then you move on to the next one. But like, eventually, you're going to get your shot to where you can do something more long term. I think.
Because what ended up happening is that you've proven to a whole bunch of casting offices and a whole bunch of producers and directors all over town that you can do it, that you can deliver in an audition room, that you can deliver on set. I think part of what happened with me was that I, first of all, realized that I needed to learn to love auditioning. If you hate auditioning, which a lot of actors do, which is bizarre, but if you hate it, you're not going to book a lot of work because people can tell that you hate it.
Sure.
So I learned I love auditioning, and I'm really good at it. So that helps a lot.
That's great.
I think also, first of all, there are a lot of actors who won't do those roles. Like once they have a certain amount of credits, who start turning them down. And there are things now that I won't do for sure, but I think that's part of the calculation is there something, even if it's something I've done before, if it's not that many lines, whatever, is there someone on the show that I would love to work with? Is it a show that I'm a fan of? Is it a kind of work I haven't done before? Like, and then also I think it comes back to training. It turns out there are not that many actors who can be thrown in. Guest acting, I can now say with some hindsight, is so hard because you're thrown in to like a fast-moving machine where you don't know anyone. Every show has a different energy, a different vibe, a different pace, a different way of working, and you don't get to know any of that. You just have to show up, kill it, because there's no time for the guest actor to fuck up, kill it, and get out of the way, which is, I think we've all seen guest actors fall apart because that's hard to do. And, I think when you get a reputation for being able to do that well, on the one hand, you'll keep getting offers for guest work, which can be frustrating. But on the other hand, you will keep working because a lot of the time they have problems with people because they can't handle it. So like on Shameless, I think the reason I was on Shameless for so long was that is a very fast-moving, very professional, high-level, high-energy set. And not everyone can handle it. You're expected to show up, know your lines. There's no baby sides on set. Like, show up, know your shit, don't screw it up, and get out. And I think being able to do that is what kept me coming back to that show, and to all of those jobs, I think.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So would you say that the jobs you won't do is Celebrity Cannonball? Is that one you won't do?
Is that the one?
I don't want to be cold. I don't want to be... I have no interest in, like, losing 80 pounds for a job or climate. There's a whole genre of television and films that I call, like, stuff that makes me glad I'm on my couch, like Everest, Walking Dead. The shows with extreme temperatures, lots of running. I don't need it. I don't need it.
Like we had Jonathan Banks on the show. We talked about there was like a scene in
my God.
Better Call Saul where they're like off in the desert, where like and he's like, oh yeah, they're like people dropping of heat stroke in the crew. Yeah, and they're like in the sun, like, and he's like, oh no, we were really in the desert doing that. I'm like, you're like 80. Like, don't die. Yeah. Please don't die. We need you.
Or we had Lance Henriksen on the show, and it was the same thing. Just the stuff.
Like he
was on Better Things too, and he talked about how much he loved it. Yeah, but
like, I will do all kinds of emotional heavy lifting. I will, I did American Horror Story, and in the scene that did not air, I was like in my underwear chained to a metal table in a room full of meat hooks and plastic sheeting. I'll do some stuff that a lot of other people don't want to do, but I don't need to. Go to physical extremes. That's not a thing I need to do.
Yeah, I love it.
Although if someone has a movie that they want me to do with that in it, let me know and we'll talk.
What as we're wrapping up, just something that I always feel like is a good ask is and it's a tricky question because in this business we don't really choose. We don't know what's coming next. You know, like we don't know what people are working on next that would include you and things like that. Like so, but what is something that you would like to do that you haven't gotten to do yet in your career?
I used to not have an answer to that question, but I thought about it, and I actually kind of do. So, like, when I was in high school, I had, it's not exactly a goth phase, but kind of a punky, gothy, alt phase that was very much of the mid to late 90s. I would love to go back into that world because I feel like that's kind of a path. If I had not gone in this direction, I could have gone off in that direction and lived a very different looking life.
Wow.
And my dad just sent me all my old vinyl from the basement in New Jersey, and it's all like REM and Ramones and like all my old stuff, and it's just making me remember very viscerally that sort of like alt college-y, slightly punky army surplus scene. And I would love to get into a character who had some of that to it. Like Some Kind of Wonderful when I was listening to Leah Thompson, like that world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
I would love to play someone with some of that to them because I haven't gotten to, and that's a part of me.
And that just reminded me, when I was a freshman at Carnegie Mellon, the Ramones came, and I got to see them for $1. Did you go to that show?
Yes, I did.
Well, we were there together.
I remember that, like, they played their set. They left the stage. The house lights were still off. They had not played Lobotomy.
Yeah.
They had not they had not played the hit.
The big ones,
started leaving. And I just started screaming, like, are you people stupid? The show is not
I know, it's
over.
nowhere near done. Yeah.
It was not crowded enough. I was losing my mind. So
Yeah.
yes, I was very much at that show. That's exciting that we were both there.
There you go.
So cool. I love that. Do you use? Are you a social media person? You using the Instagrams and the Twitters and the things?
Yes, just the Instagrams and the Twitters. I don't know about any of the other things.
You don't do the
but
TikToks?
You're not on TikTok
no,
yet?
No.
Oh, Rebecca.
No.
Tell the kids
drawing
on that
a line.
Disney show that you're not on TikTok yet, and they'll take care of it.
Yeah,
They'll hook you up.
help you.
I don't want them to. I've told them do not try to talk me into it. 2 is my limit. I left Facebook last year. I'm tearing down, not the other way.
Oh, man, I get it.
But I'm at the Rebecca Metz on those 2 platforms and those 2 platforms only.
I love
Very
it.
cool.
Matt, where can people find you?
There are links to everything at funnymatt.com, or if you're upset by me in any way, please let me know at mattwalkersucks.com.
I love it, and people do.
Yes.
You can always get me at Stephen Glickman, STPHEN Glickman on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, all the places. Where else? Bumble, Plenty of Fish.
All the places.
No.
Oh, so sad. It is so lovely and wonderful getting a chance to talk to you, Rebecca. Like I've been a fan for a long time. I've watched so much of the things that you've done, and getting a chance to like talk to you and get to like really learn about you and stuff is been an honor, and I hope we get to work together in the future.
I would love that, and you guys thank you for asking like real substantive questions and being cool people, and this has been really fun.
Yay!
Well, thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. Talk again soon.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.